Hi, in this video I am going to tell you about the gemstone ruby and its main simulants, imitation stones and synthetic stone. Ruby is the red colored variety of the species corundum. Aluminium oxide with trace amount of chromium is the chemical content. It is red in color and sometimes hues of purple, pink and brown will present along with red. There are many other stones resembles like ruby in color wise. Some of them are natural and some are artificial and synthetic. The main stones resembling like ruby in its color are spinel, garnet, tourmaline, fluorite, red beryl, synthetic ruby, cubic zirconia, red glass, etc. The chemical, optical and physical properties will be different. Only by the color resemblance these stones are look similar and confused with each other. It is very important to separate these gemstones. It is an important gemstone in the gemology sector and it has high price and demand in the market. There are natural, artificial and synthetic stones resembles like ruby. The spinel is an important gemstone. In the ancient time, it was considered as ruby itself. So before it was named as spinel ruby. In ancient time, in very famous crowns and all, spinel was mounted in place of ruby. They were considered spinel as ruby. Ruby is crystallizing in the trigonal crystal system. Spinel is crystallizing in cubic crystal system. That is one of the main important difference between these two stones. The gemstones crystallizing in the cubic crystal system or isometric crystal system will always shows singly refractive nature. Because of this nature, ruby and spinel will easily separate by an aid of a simple instrument known as dichroscope. By observing the pleochroism of gemstones, we can separate ruby and spinel. Spinel is singly refractive and ruby is doubly refractive. By the aid of this simple instrument, we can separate these two stones. And by observing the crystal structure of rough stones also, we can separate these two gemstones. Ruby has the hardness of 9. Because of its similarity in the hardness, these both stones shows very high luster, like vitreous luster, and this is also the confusing factor between these stones. And the inclusions present in both stones will be different. And the next stone is garnet. In the garnet group, the varieties like almandine garnet, pyrope garnet and rhodolite garnet will resemble like ruby. And by looking the color, you can separate these gemstones from ruby. These stones are showing the purplish red or brownish red in color. And these are also crystallizing in the cubic crystal system. And the hardness is lower than spinel, around 7.5. And these stones are sometimes very clean and inclusion free. And keep in mind that ruby is not that much transparent as compared with garnet, and the shining of garnet will be less than ruby because of the low hardness. And red fluorite, that is also resembles with ruby, and its hardness is very much less than ruby, and its hardness is only 4. By a hardness pencil, you can easily separate ruby and fluorite. Fluorite is also crystallizing in the cubic crystal system, so that it is also singly refractive in nature. And the next important stone is tourmaline. Tourmaline in appearance, it is more pinkish red in color. This colored variety is also known as rubellite, and its hardness is around 7 to 7.5, and this stone is crystallizing in the trigonal crystal system. Ruby also crystallizing in the trigonal crystal system. So, because these two stones are crystallizing in the same crystal system, because of the same crystal structure, it will confuse each other. Observing through the microscope also, it is little bit difficult because both the stones are doubly refractive stones, and by observing through the microscope you can identify trichite inclusions mainly present in tourmaline stones, and the refractive index will also differ. The refractive index of tourmaline around 1.62 to 1.64. The refractive index of ruby will be higher, 1.76 to 1.77. This is the main difference. And the next stone is red beryl, that is also known as bixbyte. This stone is also pinkish red in color, and its crystal system is hexagonal, that is also similar with the trigonal crystal system, and the hardness will around 7.5. Bixbyte is the rarest gemstone also, and sometimes red topaz also available in the market. Topaz has the hardness 8 and it is near to ruby. By observing its refractive index, it is around 1.61 to 1.62. You can easily separate topaz from ruby. And the next stone we are going to discuss is red glass. It is an imitation and artificial stone created in laboratories. Glass is also singly refractive in nature, and its hardness is very much less than ruby. Most of the glasses have the hardness around 5.5 to 6. And cubic zirconia, that is also known as American diamond in the market. This red colored cubic zirconia will confuse with ruby, and the easy way of separation is by looking its luster. Cubic zirconia will always shines like similar to diamond. Ruby has the vitreous luster, and cubic zirconia has the sub-adamantine luster, and its hardness is around 8.5. And the main difference between ruby and cubic zirconia is its specific gravity. By taking two same size ruby and cubic zirconia in your hand, you can feel cubic zirconia very much heavier than ruby. That is one of the main difference. And cubic zirconia is always inclusion free as compared to ruby. This glass and cubic zirconia is completely artificial stones. And the next important stone which we are going to discuss is synthetic ruby. Synthetic ruby is created in laboratory and has the same chemical, optical and physical properties. These synthetic gemstones are sometimes very much clear than natural ruby. It may be inclusion free, and sometimes gas bubbles and some synthetic inclusions will be present in the gemstone. By the help of a microscope, you can separate synthetic and natural ruby. These stones we are discussed here are look-wise or color-wise similar with ruby and having different optical, chemical and physical properties. I think this video will help you to separate these synthetic, artificial and simulant stones from natural ruby. Thank you.